Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina-r-Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and today we are going to be talking about leaving a legacy. I have an incredible memoir in my hand called A Story of Love by Melissa-Malcolm-Peck. And I want to read kind of a foreword that's in the book that'll give you an idea of how our conversation is going to go today and the legacy that Melissa has left for her 3 daughters. Melissa says, "You are destined to read this just as I was called to write it. It is not the book I thought I would write, nor is it the life I once thought I would live. But years have yielded enough wisdom to ignore idle thoughts. Purpose waits rooted beneath passing thought. I believe I wouldn't change a thing. There is joy now in all of it. Time has added that joy. For some of it lacked joy, it lacked compassion, and it lacked patience in the living of it. A few weeks ago, I looked at pictures of myself in a family scrapbook. I was strong and healthy. My hair was dark. I had no scars. I looked beautiful, but I was not smiling. I smile now in every photo. Finding life has offered me the gift of a smile." Melissa. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Melissa's daughter, Jacqueline, to the show today. Jacqueline, thank you so much for saying yes to me.
Gina, thank you so much for having me. This is really incredible to be able to share my mom's story and kind of reflect on what we've been able to go through as a family and continuing to share my mom's legacy of love and exactly what she was trying to say in her passage, that time adds joy and time adds the patience and time adds so much value to it. And something that she really carried through in her life was a patience for loving us whenever we were terrible, terrible children. But this intentionality in living in the moment and knowing that all good things are going to come. And this too will pass is what she would always say. So I'm really excited to share her story and kind of share how I've been able to come through this past season and have a deeper level of joy for my living as well. And that's something that she passed on to all of us. So very, very grateful to be here today. Thanks so much for having me.
It is my joy to have you. And of course, we talked about before we hit record, I'm the mother of daughters and your mom had 3 daughters, right?
Yes.
And,
exactly.
And to kind of tip our hat a little bit, Melissa has passed away and her 3 daughters have continued her story and released this memoir. So I don't really want to take your story away, but take us back a little bit about your mom's life and her legacy. Tell us what needs to be heard about your mom and this book and why you're so passionate to share her legacy.
Yes, I think number one, what you just touched on was leaving a legacy. And how do you do that? You know, how do you understand your role in your family and what's going to happen in future generations? So that's something that my mom has been able to tell me throughout my whole life is what's your purpose now and what's going to be your effect afterwards. So that's something that you can always think about, and that gives you purpose is what am I doing every day? Little things, big things, which the little things end up to be the big things, but what am I doing each day to make my family feel like they have this future or they have this capacity to love? And that's something that she always helped bring out in us, you know, to know that we were so deeply loved and we had this future and to carry on that love. And so all this book is really that legacy of love. And she showed that every day, just who she was. And yeah, just being so kind and strong and just being very intentional with us. And I think that has been such a mirror to all of my other relationships. And a big theme also of the book is forgiveness. And the start of the book reveals this big affair that happened between my father and my mom. And she kind of walks you through the intense pain, what happens, immediately with her reaction and all of her emotions and what happens with that, and exactly what forgiveness means for her. And it doesn't happen right away. It's this continual forgiveness and a continual manifesting and kind of reflecting on how you want the other person to act, which you have no control of, but you have control over your thoughts, and you have control over how you choose to see that other person. You choose to see them in love. You choose to see them the best they can be. And that is not easy, especially when you're holding so much anger and confusion, and you're just, anxious about a situation, and you have no understanding of why this happened. But something that forgiveness is about is not just trying to answer the question or ask for the healing immediately. It's an understanding of yourself, and it's an understanding of knowing yourself better. And it's continuing, asking how can I just love this person? And it's a choice. Immediately you choose to do it, and then you're able to understand a little bit more down the road how they change and how you've changed on the way. But that's kind of the first beginning, is loving someone unconditionally. And that really started with that relationship between my father and my mother. And it wasn't easy. It was not easy at all. But she continued to persevere. And it was just a really good start to the book, and something that we grew up with, knowing that the relationship wasn't perfect, but they loved each other so fiercely, and they chose to continue to be together even when it didn't feel perfect. And that's another thing with unconditional love. Like, you don't feel like it all the time, but you continue to choose to learn more about the person, and that trust just grows so much. So the forgiveness and just really changed her. She knew so much about her ability and her capacity to love. And she probably would have been completely different of a mother. She would have been so incredible the same way, but she had this resilience to her that just echoed into everything that she did. So that gave us this view that she was a superwoman, and she could do anything. And she did everything. She homeschooled us. I have older twin sisters, and we were not the easiest kids, but she was running a full-time business at the same time. So she was able to just be very intentional with her time, and understanding that you live every day to the fullest. And that's exactly what she did. She was very true to herself and true to who we were.
So now she started writing the book. She actually initiated the book, correct? So part of this book was written by her. So tell me, what was it that shifted? When did it shift from her hands to yours and your sister's?
Yes. So actually this started right after she had her first heart attack, and she had 4 heart attacks in the span of 48 hours. So this initial shock, body, mind, soul, you're in so much pain and just conflict with everything going on in your life. She felt like everything was shattered. Everything was broken. She had nothing to hold on to. So her way to filter and really reflect and to unearth what was happening in her life was this message. And she just started writing from, the first week. So all of this is like present tense, night by night, what's going on in her soul and her thoughts. So I think that's why it feels so personal of writing and so powerful, because she was going through this when it happened. It wasn't a reflection 10 years later. It was exactly at that time period. And so it was a major vessel for her healing. And so this particular snippet, there's 3 books actually. So this is the first of 3. And this is all of her writing, but she had 6 different drafts of these 3 books. So she was kind of struggling growing up. We all knew she really wanted this book published. Like, that was her number one goal, was to share her story and share this battle that she went through and overcame. So she just kept trying to be like, wow, like, how am I going to piece this together? And she just really tried to trust in God's timing and trust, but she felt like she was hitting a lot of roadblocks. in, putting it together or the way she wanted to share it. So she kept writing, but she never had a book published. So when she passed away, that was my, first initiative was, wow, I got to do something with Mom's book. That was what I held on to as well. So I dropped out of school and I just, went back home, and I allowed myself that time to be and to grieve and, to cry every half an hour if I needed to, and to just give myself that grace that she always gave me. And it wasn't about being perfect, but it's about being yourself and being genuine. And wherever you are, as raw as you feel, to just be in that. So I decided, I could definitely run away and do whatever I wanted to do, but I wanted to heal. I wanted this to give something to my mom back, and all the time and sacrifice and everything she did for us. I was like, that's the one thing I could do for her. So I wanted to do it then. And I just decided to work backwards. So I started on the last draft, and I compiled from very last to the very first. So I was able to kind of have her fresh thoughts and what she wanted the direction of the book, at the latest time in her life. And so I just compiled it backwards to forwards, and I was able to gain clarity in the direction she wanted the book to go. And luckily, a month before she passed away, she had never shared anything growing up about the book with me, because it's just a little bit, a little raw and intense for, an 8-year-old to read. But we were always so curious, and we wanted to know more about the story. But she really started opening up a month before, and she told me, hey, like, this is the direction I want the book in. This is what I'm trying to do with the book. Would you help me with it? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. I was so excited to help her. So luckily she had that timing. I mean, it just helped so much knowing that she wanted to do with the book. So I was able to use that time to really, not just to really know what she wanted. So I kind of used that when I was starting to compile the book with my sisters. So that was a good direction for us, for sure. But it was so strange, the timing of that. She was very intuitive. So I think she knew to a degree, maybe she didn't have as much time left, or, we never know what was going through her mind, but she just stayed true the whole time to who she was.
Mm. And how was it for you as a daughter going through this book from such a deep, raw, authentic place of your mother? Because with our moms, right, we talked about this too. I'm very close to my daughters, that mother-daughter connection. And we have we have our feeling or idea of what our mom is and the legacy that they're leaving or the impact they've had on us. But we're not in their head. This is you being inside your mom's head, which is something most people don't ever get to see.
Yes, exactly. And so for me as a daughter, number one, I found gratitude again. I had no gratitude for, a couple months afterwards. I felt nothing. So this was to be able to understand, this is such a gift. Who gets this? There's so many people struggling with loss, with losing their child or losing their brother and sister. And to be able to have something that it's natural, at least to maybe lose a parent, not so early. But I found gratitude again through the book and through getting in her thoughts. And I was able to see who she was earlier and how changed she was. And the fact that of course I had this different perception of her as a daughter, and I never knew any of this, but I felt her so close, and I felt this side of her, which I really think people will resonate with, because people don't know who she is when she passed away, but they will really feel who she was and how much she changed in the beginning of her life. So the fact that I was able to see kind of this major evolution and just be with her during this turmoil, I felt like she was with me in my turmoil. And it gave me this fresh perspective, which is all you need. It was like a wake up, like, wow, I still have this life to live. Like, this is just my first chapter. This is not the end of my life. So even though it felt like something died, something in our life died, and I was not the same at all. And I found this new joy somehow. It wasn't forced, but it was some sort of like fresh joy in my life through this book and through walking with her and walking through it with my family that I was not expecting at all. And I was surprised by this feeling of peace that kind of came over the situation that felt so like wrong. And, you're so confused at first, but, with time, as my mom says in the passage that you just read, it's just understandings, a peace will come. It doesn't have to make sense. You never have to ask, the why may never come, but it was this peace that came that really surprised me and kind of helped bring my family back together, hearing her words and her thoughts, as raw and emotional as they were. It was like we're all grieving together. And that's something also that I was so grateful for, was to have my sisters. We were all going through the same thing, and my respect for them just has infinitely grown over the years. So that's, was something really, really important to us to do this together.
What's interesting is, she was just going through her own journey and writing it down, right? And it ended up being the physical legacy, right?
Yes,
so it's physical.
completely.
It reaches beyond what you know about your mom, what your sisters know about your mom, what your dad knows about your mom. This is that extension of who she is. So when you think about her legacy from a daughter's perspective, what was the most impactful thing that your mom did that deepened your understanding, your love, your respect? What was it that filled your cup about your mom's legacy? What makes you so passionate about this book, A Story of Love, or this series of 3? I only have the first one. So
yes.
What is it?
Yep. I think understanding, she has a passage in the book, I think it's about middle way through, but she talks about her dad, and she was extremely close to her dad. I was named after my grandfather, and I didn't get a chance to know him very much. He passed away when I was 1, but she talks about the legacy that he left. And she had never told me this before, really. I knew how much she loved him and how close she was to her parents, but it gives a voice to my grandfather as well. And just to know that he had such an impact on her, and it really is generational. And that perspective I had no idea about. So as a daughter reading this book, really understanding how my grandfather had this impact on my mom, and that carried through exactly to my mom, I was like, wow, that is mom. It gives me hope for the future, because I am inspired to be that kind of mom one day. I want to continue to pass on my mom, not only through the book and share a story, but in as much ways as possible with my future family, and carry that on to the relationships that I have right now, and give that to my sisters, my dad, whatever. It's just understanding it really, it works. My mom changed so much just through that relationship with my grandfather and through my grandmother. And she tells that specifically. And, a lot of this book is her growing in faith and understanding the character of Jesus, and understanding the beauty in a fight, and understanding it's not just suffering, but there's so much triumph, and understanding who you are and the purpose you have in this world through sharing your story. And that transcends suffering. It's not just moping. Suffering becomes suffering when you think that is the only thing that's happening to you. But there's so much purpose in these, tangible moments when you feel so broken. And I think a major catalyst for her healing was being able to hear her dad's voice. And he had passed away, but she was so close to him, and understanding how he would want her to live. And so there's this moment when she's, having trouble sleeping. She's gotten back from the hospital after her triple bypass and open heart surgery. And she's just, overrun with fear and these thoughts of being on a respirator. And she's consumed by the past and consumed by a fear of the future. And she hears my grandfather say this line from Shakespeare, and it says, a cowardly man dies 1,000 deaths, but a brave man only once. So she decided in that moment, hey, I've had enough deaths this time around, I am going to choose to live, whatever time I have left. I'm not going to die any more deaths. And just every night she felt like she was like having to fight, and just she knew that her grandfather was still, her dad was still close in that moment. And just being able to feel that, I was like, wow, hey, maybe I can't hear my mom's voice, but I know some things she would tell me. And I choose to accept that she is fighting for me too. So it's no longer like you are not alone in your battle, and having that connection with your parents. And I knew it would help me too. So yeah.
That's an incredible, powerful point to legacies. We talk about legacy. You're reaching back 2 generations.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
yes.
seeing that one person's decision impacts this person.
Yes.
And then that person agrees with that positive decision.
Yes.
And thinks this is just for my family, right? This is just my daughters. This is just
right.
my husband. I'm going to live this way here. But it seems as though the ripple effect is going to be so powerful with this book. And it's just a decision of a human who struggles, an imperfect, scared, overwhelmed, broken person. Like we tend to think of, I know, you look at mom, you're like, oh, superhero. And then you get to see that underneath that cape was just so much struggle. There was a battle being fought all the time. And how does that impact your perspective of your mom and legacy when you know the nitty gritty now?
That there really was so much beauty in it. And that seems kind of off-putting to people. But when you were able to see her and how strong she was, and just, such a warrior, she wanted to be in the Marine Corps too, but then she had us. But it really, when you choose to just like sit in your pain a little bit and like know that it's going to change you for good, it no longer becomes something you're like, rejecting. Like you accept it, you learn what it's trying to teach you, and you move on, and you try to become new, whatever it's teaching you. So yeah, I'm like, wow, she went through so much pain, God. But it doesn't become something that's negative. It doesn't become something where I'm like scared of what's going to happen in my life. Like I'm like, bring it on, because you see how it can transcend you. And this like joy of walking alongside the life of Christ, really hand in hand. It's pretty cool when you see the other side of it. So at least for me, seeing the other side, I know she had so much victory. She might not have lived to age 100, but she lived life to the fullest. And I know exactly what that means because I saw it every day. It wasn't dying 1,000 deaths. It was choosing to live how she wanted to live. And I like something you said on your previous podcast was living on your own terms. And that's something that she chose to do, to just be her all. And she lived with a major heart condition at 9,000 feet and absolutely 0 drugs, and completely living on love and faith and practicing your power of your thoughts. And that seems, like a classic Boulder, right? But it really helps for her. And it was so powerful to know that you can create whatever life you want to create. And I was able to see that. So no matter what like comes at you, no matter the struggles like I'm having right now, it's like there's so much purpose rooted in this pain. There's so much purpose still. And
so the word that you keep, the word, if you'll please excuse me, the word that you keep using, which is one of my favorite words.
Good.
Did I say favorite?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So there's 2 words, favorite, which is intentionality and purpose.
Yes.
That sounds like themes of your mother's life.
Completely. 100%. Yeah. Every single day it was like, make a great day, honey. We started homeschooling. I was in 2nd grade and my sisters were in 6th grade. But every single day she would drop us off at school and be like, okay, say it with me, make a great day. And be like, we'll make a great day, Mom. Or even when we were homeschooled and Dad would go to work, we would always stop and stand at the door to wave. And we'd both like yell out, like, make a great day. So, just the power of a day and what can happen in a day if you live with intentionality and understanding, just be in the moment, whatever that moment's bringing you. And there's so much that can happen. So I think that was really just being able to understand every single day, like you'd never know what's going to happen. And I think globally people really realize that, just, what happened with Kobe and that tragedy. And that's such a message that you can understand, even if it's not something that you have to walk through personally. And it's a beautiful lesson to learn, even if you don't have to personally go through that pain, but it's still something that you can have, even if that's not your experience, so I'm grateful to be able to share that message as much as I can.
You mentioned Kobe, and I think he's someone who definitely lived with purpose and intentionality.
Yes.
He had a humongous impact. And
yes,
I want to draw the contrast between this famous man who, we're all just devastated because it felt like he had so much more to give.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
But then there's someone like your mom who lived with that same intention and purpose, and her life was, in our opinion, cut short.
Yes.
And you think, there was so much more to give. But see, Kobe's legacy was in the work he was doing, the quotes, because he's famous. Everybody quotes him. I quoted him because I really admired his intentionality.
Oh, yes.
But your mom did something extraordinary by writing what she was going through, when she was going through it, and not taking the time to doctor it or put makeup on it or a filter on it, and then to at some point invite you into that journey with her. And it's the same thing. She wasn't famous, but she did the same thing. And we honor the journey and the impact of each person who chooses to live with that intentionality and purpose. So even though we really think about famous people and how sad, but it's not as sad as it could have been if he hadn't lived full out. And it's the same thing with your mother, right?
Yes.
It's that living full out that makes you be able to go, yes, left nothing on the table, right?
Right, exactly. And thank you for mentioning that and saying that, because who has control over how long they live? No one has control over it. And that's all you can control, is living with that, the perseverance and the discipline also, which, Kobe had such discipline and raw talent. But it's just understanding that that's all you can control, So that was really such a beautiful message to be able to see. You ask all these questions after like such a tragedy happens, you really do. But you can't reflect on that because you'll just drive yourself crazy. You really will. And it's nothing that you can answer, but it's like, wow, how did she live her life? How did Kobe live her life? What would he want us to remember about him? And, something that my dad really still struggles with, I think, is like, she was, she finally got everything she wanted. She for 40 years, she was searching to get a ranch. And 3 years before she passed away, we finally were able to get a ranch. So she lived full time on that ranch. And we were like, she had so much plans. Like the other week I went up there and I found everything she wanted to do with it, like turn it into a guest ranch, have like square dancing, take people on horseback rides, go fishing, all this stuff that she had planned. And, maybe I'm like, hey, that's not the point, is to reflect on, what could have been or what was robbed from us and what we feel was robbed from her. We have no idea, we'll know that later on, but it's just trying to put your focus and your thoughts on what would she want us to think about right now, because she's not thinking about all the things that she's robbed of in the life right now. That's not what she's doing. So we don't need to think about that, even though it's so natural to do that. but you just like hold on to and you grasp the things that did go right. And for one thing was, that circle and the completion of my parents' relationship continuing to develop. And she had wanted to be married in the Catholic Church, and she was very strong in that faith. And so she finally got married 2 months before she passed away. They got remarried because they never had a proper wedding when my mom was 22. So they went to the courthouse, and she was like, I can't have this. So finally my dad got baptized, and they decided to get remarried. So just, to have her kind of go out with this incredible, growing so much in your relationship and having that meet such a model for us is something I really try to focus on. Like, wow, that really, there could have been so much more to that, but it was what it needed to be. And it showed us that kind of love and never giving up on each other. And that's maybe what we needed to learn. Maybe we didn't need all that the other time with her, but it sure makes my relationship with my dad stronger, because I've lost a parent, but I've really gained a parent in a way. And also my time with my sisters, because everything is intentional. Every day is, I'm like, wow, you're so funny. Or I really try to remember what people say sometimes. I feel like such a dork, but it's like, I want to remember really who they are and how they make me feel, and just try to help each other. So we kind of live with more velocity and more passion, definitely, because you just never know. You never know.
I love that you said it was what it needed to be. There's that. It sounds like your mom's legacy really had a lot to do with grappling with unfair realities, difficult realities, and coming to that place of, okay, how do I embrace the suck? That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yes, definitely in the first few years after it happened. And it never feels perfect. Like, your relationships never feel perfect. They never feel like they're exactly where you want it to be. But it's just focusing on growing yourself and, knowing what you're capable to give and what you can give to the other person. So, something my dad really grew in is like taking responsibility for what you're doing and how you're contributing to your relationship. Because, whenever I ask him for like boy advice, I'm like, Dad, what do I do here? And he's just like, just take responsibility for your actions, and that's all you can control. And so just being able to, just take responsibility for how you're changing and just work on yourself. That's really all you can control when all these different situations are going on in your life. It's like, I want to recreate the life I want to live. If you're not liking this or this in your life, then change it. And really, she taught us how to manifest and taught us how to visualize. And I was so horrible at that. Like, I'd be like, I can't do it. Like, I just can't do it. And whenever something bad happens, like even when I was a little girl, I remember if I would stub my knee or if I would fall off my bike or if I had like a accident or something, she would just like sit me down and she'd be like, okay, so now revisualize how you would want that situation to go. And I'd be like, Mom, this is stupid. Like, it's already done. But just trying to reprogram your mind in a situation, whether it's, just something that's like a broken bone, you're reprogramming a different scenario and you're trying to refocus on creating something healthy, so that helped me in just physical pain that I was going through when I was younger. And now, suffering, some mental battles that I'd never had encountered before. So it's just reprogramming how I, have confidence in myself to navigate life when I don't have my biggest fan anymore, Yeah. So it's just trusting that you can get through it and you have the courage to get through whatever you're fighting.
What an incredible legacy.
Thanks.
To hand over tools.
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
She didn't know that she wouldn't be here. But
Right.
Because she was intentional, the living a legacy conversation, because
Yes.
I'm a mom and you're a daughter. You're not yet there. So you're sharing, and the reason why you're presence on my podcast is so valuable is because this is for, as women in my age group or older are reflecting back, they can hear from the other side of the story what legacy looks like. And I would say that what I read at the beginning, your mom admitted that she was not always in that place of joy. She was not always in that place of presence. So at any given time, we can choose, me, my age group and older, or you can start at your age, but I think your message really is the legacy's not set yet. You can continue to build and create the legacy you want starting now.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if you didn't do it right before, it can be shifted now.
Yes, completely. Yeah, exactly. You can always shift it 100%. And people were always shocked when I talked to my mom on the phone. They're like, you guys are just so close. And I think because of the situation, we were able to develop that relationship when I was so much younger. When, you're fighting with your daughters, your daughter's just confused on why you're telling her to do certain things. But I was able to know, like, wow, like this relationship is so important. And we had our moments, but I got to see the other side when sometimes people are like, okay, we're closer with our moms when we're like in our later 20s, or when I have a baby and like I really I need my mom to be there, and I finally understand what she was going through. But like I understood what she was going through already. And so I really hope, even from a mother's perspective and a daughter's perspective, they can just really respect each other and where they are in life, and to understand their roles, and to know that you're just doing your best. You really are. So that's all my mom gave me, and that's all I tried to give my mom. But luckily I was understanding she might not be here. So we kind of were a little bit kinder to each other and a little bit more careful with what we said. And we didn't fight so much, just because you just, you don't need to waste time on that. But yeah, I understood that perspective that a lot of people come into later in life, where they're like, wow, I finally know what you're going through. So I was lucky to kind of know, the time is now to just start having that love and respect for the other person. The relationship doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be understanding the role that you're playing and the role that you can give someone else someday too.
So now, what was the time frame from the beginning of this book, when she started that journey with the 4 heart attacks in 48 hours, and to the point when you said it was a month before? Because obviously you didn't know she was dying in a month. But what was the time frame from that point to the conversation about the book?
Yes. So she started writing this book in 97. So I was 3 years old when she had her first heart attack. And then, 3 more rapidly after that. But she continued to write the book, and she had a pacemaker put in 2011, just because we were living at such high altitude in the mountains in Colorado that the doctors thought that was just a smart move to do. So she continued to go through that. And then in 2015, it was May of 2015, and I spent a month with her at the ranch, and she was kind of telling me what she was doing with the book. And in June, I went to Scotland to study abroad. And in July, that's when I got the call that she passed away. So yeah, it was just this, she always was fighting this, but we never thought she was still in pain. She never really told us that she was still in this pain. So she had a defibrillator go off 3 times, where, it shocks you, and you're able to come back without the paddles. So that it really helped her. But she felt like she was starting to live in fear again. And she thought that she wanted to be her all, and she wanted to just, have God heal her as much as he wanted to heal her. And she chose to take the defibrillator out in 2012. So that was kind of a big shock to our family, because we're like, come on, it's, saved her life 3 times. What are you doing? But we chose to respect her wishes, and she didn't want to feel like this box was going to go off in her chest. She just hated that feeling. And she didn't want to be dependent on anyone other than God and herself. So she was very strong-willed in that. And we really tried to convince her. But something we try to say now is like, we don't even know if that defibrillator was still in, if that would help her. So it was her choice. And she lived with so much joy, knowing that she was 100% herself, and what a beautiful life. I think that's all we can ask for in life, is to be 100 ourselves. So yeah, that's kind of the timeline. 97 through 2015 was her writing these books.
That's almost 20 years. That was a long time.
Yes, ma'am. It was.
Wow. Now, how has that legacy your mother left, how has that enhanced your relationship with your sisters? What's the actual impact? Have you had conversations, or how has that manifested itself?
Yes. So it's really interesting because I've learned a lot about grief and I've learned a lot about how people grieve in completely different ways. I love to talk about things. Like that's my, I'll call a friend up and be like, wow, I'm like really struggling. Or, sometimes I'm doing awesome. Like it's still a roller coaster, but for my sisters, they don't like to talk about things as much. And so, we had the same mom, we had the same experiences growing up, homeschooled, but we're just different. And so something my mom, encouraged in me always growing up was to have empathy and compassion for people. And I never really was able to put it into practice as much as I have been the last 4 years with my family. And I get frustrated sometimes. I'm like, I just want to cry with you or like talk with you about this. And sometimes they don't want to do that. And so I'm able to heal on my own terms, and understanding what I need, and to learn to ask other people for that. And there's people in my life who give me that. And it doesn't have to be asking my sisters or my dad for something they can't give, when they give me so many other valuable things. So it's really just having empathy for what they're going through, and knowing they have different personality traits that they're trying to, show off their strength and show their resilience in different ways than I do. And they're trying to be strong in a way that, I don't feel like I need to be right now. And that is noble in itself. So it's just this empathy that my mom gave me to be able to know we're all healing on our different timelines, and we're all in different stages of grief. And so just, knowing I don't have to beat myself up when I don't feel like our relationship's growing in that way. We've grown so much just respecting each other, and trying to see them through my mom's eyes too, and knowing they're fighting a hard battle. And even if they don't tell me all the time what's going on, I have this such respect for them, and how they have been very strong through this whole situation. I was able to take time off. I was a sophomore in college, so I wasn't, in the workforce and having to continue a job. I had this time with myself and with this book that they didn't have. And so I'm like, wow, how are you so stable? They were never able to leave home. I've been able to travel. I've been able to kind of escape and feel my mom in different places, which I would never had the opportunity. So we've all been blessed to be able to have each other in our lives, but we're able to see each other with a little bit more kindness and respect than we had before, even if we're very different people. And I think siblings have that struggle with seeing each other when they want them to be a certain way, or they're like, why do you have to do that or steal my clothes? But it's really incredible. We've been able to stay in our roles as sisters. They haven't really tried to be my mom. They're there for me in the ways that I need, which is really incredible to think about it, because that's something that I try to hop into, is being in the mom role. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Just because I'm missing that, So I think it's pretty special. We've been able to maintain our sisterly relationship to the degree that we have. and to just know we all are fighting something, and you don't always have to talk about it. It's sometimes the silence that's the strongest communicator, and just to be with each other. So,
and is that something that you really feel like your mom instilled in you in her own way? Just that.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, she all had, she spent special time with each of us, so she really made us feel heard in our own way. So she really knew what we needed, and she didn't force us to act a certain way. She just knew. And so that's something I try to give to my dad and give to my sisters. Just be with them and try to not give love how I feel love, but take the time to be like, how do they receive it? So that's something she was able to give to us in being, completely different people. She just accepted us 100%, whatever stage we were at. And you feel that, like she never forced us to change. She never beat us up for like being, feeling like we weren't doing our best, but she always pushed us to keep fighting. So that's what we're trying to do.
Isn't that interesting how, on the other side, did you ever just kind of feel like, Mom, why do I have to be so intentional? Did you ever just have that feeling like, when you're not aware?
Yes.
It almost feels like, what's with the purpose? What's in the intentionality? Did you ever struggle with like your mom's drive? Or
yes.
Did your sister struggle?
A little. I think we were like, how do you do all of this? we didn't know how she could be so productive, honestly. And she always pushed us. We were, training for basketball like 2-3 hours every day. And we loved basketball. We wanted to, but she was like, you can do better, and you need to practice more. She would sit with us like recording our shot percentage and being like, oh, your free throws were only 90% today, not enough. But it was it was really not until she passed away that I was like, wow, this is like what she was meaning by like trying to live with joy, because it feels so hopeless if you don't. So that's when I was like, dang, maybe something. A lot of people don't have to go through this. They won't go through some like a deep loss in their life, and they don't have to, but it was such a wake up call for us, at least. So we were like, wow, that's why she was living every day to the fullest. And sometimes I think you can't feel that way until you've had like horrible days where you don't think you're going to make it to the next day. You are so like appreciative and relieved to a degree that you can't, just tell yourself to be, unless you've really felt that. So it's like you have to really focus on it. But I think going through the situation just really opened my eyes to, wow, like, thank you, God, for a day of just like blue sky, and all of these things, like a amazing conversation I had at lunch, and I would just like blown that. And I always took that for granted, even if my mom always told me to do that. So it was a way for me to wake up and have a new life, which sounds so cliche, but it was so true, because I felt so changed. For sure. We all felt changed.
From her passing in the book?
Yeah, from her passing. But I think even if you don't have a deep loss in your life, it's a way for you to take advantage of the relationships that you do have, and just really focus on what can I do to have the most meaning in their life. And so it's like a getting out of yourself and what's going on, and focusing on how you can give that unconditional support to the people that have been placed in your life, and what that means to them. And that really helped me. It was just like, get out of myself and what I thought I was going to, and to dive deep into my mom's story. And I was like, oh, wow, I can like kind of breathe again. Here we go.
What do you feel like after this experience of really losing your mom fairly young, and having the gift of her story and that month of time with her, not knowing she was going to be gone. Then she passes. Then you're faced with this story and how you're going to really honor your mom's legacy. What do you feel at this point, your young age? What do you see so far as a legacy that you have decided is important for you? Do you have some kind of vision of legacy for this season of your life?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think to just have a testimony, whatever that is, it's very important that you have it and you know you're progressing in some way. So the last few months have just been kind of trying to promote the book and trying to focus on it. And so I haven't felt like, maybe my life, specifically what I thought before, has been progressing, but this has just been a time to be able to tell her story and to really know what legacy means to me. And that's not success exactly in a career. It's not success, with money or things like that. It's just success with relationships. It's as simple as that. It really is. Just having genuine, honest relationships. And I've been able to have that time that I normally don't, to just have, deep conversations with my friends or spend a little bit more time with my family. And that's all that you remember. And that's really the legacy I want to live, to just know, hey, I was talking to you and like I felt that you were so present with me. And that's so important. What you're doing is never even like knowing what to say with someone, but just maybe just listening with an open heart or asking questions. And so any opportunity I have to just be with someone, that's a time you can share who you are and share your legacy just by making them feel heard. And that's something my mom always did. So that's a huge thing, is just, understanding how to be with someone and how to listen. And it's never on you to say the right thing. It's just on you to be true to how you think they are and to just try to be with them. So I've had time to just, be with my family and have time to spend with relationships. And it's really the most important thing. It adds the most value, I think, to our lives, at least for me.
Well, I would honor that, because you mentioned that everyone grieves differently, and right. I totally understand that. So I think part of the legacy that I'm seeing from the outside, from your side of the story, is part of the legacy that your mom left you in holding that space for each one of you is she modeled for you what it looks like to honor each person for who they are. So when this grieving process hit,
completely,
you could all choose to step into what you had seen,
right,
and practice it maybe for the first time in that kind of a way. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you try to change people. It's so easy to want to do. But I think that's such an amazing skill to have, is to like know, wow, you're entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to your beliefs, but I can share who I am simply through love and a deep understanding that, like, hey, I see you, you're known. Yeah. My perception of life is completely different than yours, but I'm like looking at you through a lens of love. And my mom always looked at us with just this deep lens of love. And that's all you can have. That's all you can hope for when you want people to understand you. You don't even have to, they don't have to feel your pain. They don't have to do all of that, but it's just like kind of understanding you're okay to act as crazy as you want. You're okay. Like, I will still be here for you. So just that was really this, unconditional trait that my mom gave to us, for sure.
So we have talked for almost an hour, and it has been so neat to meet your mother through your eyes. And
thank you so much.
That your life honors hers. That's incredible. So definitely receive that.
Thank you.
I see that mirrored in you. But you're so welcome. If you wanted to kind of give a gift of three things, maybe legacy that your mom left, messages you want people to take away from, your journey through learning your mom all over again, right?
Yeah.
After she passed away. What would those
Yes.
3 things be?
Man, I could say like 10.
Okay, you say as many as you like.
I think number 1 is just a selfless love, and kind of giving away of your time and yourself and the people that you know really need it. So, just giving that time to people, which immediately growing up, homeschooling reflected that. And I was like, wow, she would give away her time completely just to teach us French or, so, just like a selfless love reflected in giving away of yourself and whatever you think the people need in your lives. And that changes. It's completely different, but just selfless and knowing what they need, I guess, is the first one. Number 2 would be just knowing this, whatever situation you're going through, it will pass. There is so much hope on the other end. The situation might not be changed in the ways that you want, but you will be changed if you decide to move with it and move. You're never moving on. Like, I'm never going to move on from my mom, but the situation is helping me in so many ways too. Number 3 is like living with joy, definitely. And however that means, that looks completely different to a lot of people, but just taking time out of your day to be grateful for the simplest things, and having a gratitude journal. And that may seem so basic, but when you continue to add to that and reflect on that and wake up every morning thinking about that, it really sets your day to live continually with gratitude. Yeah, and just continuing to tell you, number 4 would be to reflect on what's going right in your life and to kind of reprogram that later into your life as well. And you'll find you're happier because you expect better things to come. And I think a lot of society is, future looking. I think 80% of people think about the future and 20% of the time you're thinking about maybe what happened in the past or what's happening in the present. But living presently and expecting the best to come in the future is a big way that I've found new happiness, and something my mom continually practiced through meditation, through praying the rosary, through knowing that your best days are yet to come. And she gave that to us every day. She gave us her best. So those are 4. Maybe I'll share 10 later, but.
All right. So I'm going to do something I do with some of my friends on Marco Polo. I started a gratitude practice with them. Oh. So one of my friends is in Tennessee. So I never see her unless we use a video, right?
Okay.
And so here's the practice. I'm going to ask you to join me in this. Name 3 things you're grateful for today.
My dad, my home, and my puppy, Lucy.
Oh.
The little Frenchie. And she just makes me so happy.
I am grateful for my podcast because I get to meet wonderful people like you. It brings me so much joy. I am grateful that I have all that I need and things I don't need. There's an abundance, right? There's an abundance.
Yes.
And I am grateful for my relationship with my daughters. As we wrap up, I think about a mother's love, and it's so difficult. Someone had just said this to me. We were talking about empty nest. And she said, a mother's love is always going to exceed, because that's what a mother does, right? So our kids love us wholeheartedly, but they'll never love us in the same way. So I think one of the legacies from a mother's perspective that we can leave is allowing our children the freedom to be in our life and love us in a way that feels good to them without guilt, just a very open, knowing that, like you said, when you have children, then you begin to understand, a mother's love. Right. You can't know a mother's love until you are one.
Right. Completely.
It's impossible. So your mother's love carries on in this book, A Story of Love. And again, I want to say thank you so much for being that megaphone for your mother's life and message and purpose. And what a gift I believe this book is going to be for so many people. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. This has been so valuable for me as well. So thank you very much.
It is totally my pleasure. It's my guilty pleasure is talking to people and getting to get them to share their heart with me. So I do honor your journey. I have not been through it myself, but I do know that to overcome grief and to have such a purpose and a vision from it has taken a lot of courage. So I honor that.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having this platform to have people tell their story. So it's really incredible. Thank you.
My pleasure. So today I've been speaking with Jacqueline Malcolm-Peck. She has been sharing her mother's story, Melissa-Malcolm-Peck, called A Story of Love. And if you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 149, you are going to find links to this book. I highly encourage you to take a day off, find a beach, a mountain, you choose, and read this book and really be inspired by the legacy that Melissa is leaving through her story, the rawness, the authenticity, and then consider, what is the legacy you want to leave? What shifts can you make to move toward a legacy that would honor your life and would benefit and enrich the lives of those that you talk to every single day? So my friends, really be into leaving a legacy. Start today. If you've made mistakes, forgive yourself, ask for forgiveness, make those changes, make an impact. Every single life matters. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're famous or not, you can leave a ripple. What kind of ripple do you want to leave? So thank you so much for being with us today, and I look forward to sharing more inspirational stories with you. Thank you so much again, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.